Bah humbug. Hi, here's Movie Fanatic coming at you yet again with another holiday themed movie review. In this case, I'm coming at you with the movie review for Scrooged, the 1988 movie starring Bill Murray. Now, I actually saw this movie with my pop, and obviously when it came out, which I looked online, it was like late November 1988. So I saw it in a theater with him at First Run Theater, and I can still remember sitting in the audience at the very end when he's like doing that, which is really pretty great at the end when he's like that song comes up, even though I didn't really care about the song, but it's just kind of a touching, beautiful moment where he's like, "Feed me, Seymour." I can remember being a fan of the remake and Little Shop of Horrors at the time, thinking that, oh, that was really cool to have him say that in a movie that wasn't, Little Shop of Horrors. But I can still remember walking out of the theater or walking into the theater or being at the theater, having seen this in the theater in its first run. I was obviously probably a fan of Ghostbusters at the time. That's probably the only Bill Murray movie I'd seen probably at that time. And of course, he didn't really I don't think he did a comedy after Ghostbusters until he did this movie. I think he did some other like war movie, and then he didn't do anything, and then he did this. So this is probably the second Bill Murray movie I've seen, and I can remember, it's really interesting because I still see it the same way as I did when I very first saw it, which is like, I don't know, one of the problems with holiday movies, or at least for me, is you generally don't want to, or at least I generally don't want to watch these movies any time of the year except for like November or December. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to pull out Scrooged in freaking May 14th and watch it, and if you do, that's fine. That's no problem with me, but I don't do it. So it's kind of one of the bummer things about holiday movies, but I don't generally particularly care too much about it one way or another. I'm not a big, luckily none of my favorite movies or anything like that are holiday movies, so it doesn't really matter. But I can remember, I just rewatched this within the last week also, and having, seen it and rewatched it, I felt like at the very beginning of the movie, when his character, what's his name? Bill Murray character's in the board meeting or whatever, I just felt like, and even back when I first saw it in the theater, that his humor at the very beginning, was some of the very first things, he does or says are kind of like forced humor, which I think there's no denying it's kind of the case. Oh gosh, don't let me forget to mention that this movie features this one guy who exploded briefly there, like in the late 80s, this one guy who I don't know his name, but is a guy, I can't do it. He's a guy who talks like this. I can't even talk like him, but it's Christmas. I can't talk like him, but if you've seen the movie or if you're my age, you know who I'm talking about. It's that annoying guy who's gone on who at the time was in some other movies as well, who was kind of like the 80s version of Rob Schneider. It's just like, fuck, every time you see him, you just want to punch the screen, It's just like, it's Christmas. I'm sorry, Helen, I can't do it. But one of the very few impressions I can't do, but maybe that's a good thing. But this movie features him as well, and he gets fired by Bill Murray at the very beginning of the movie. But long story short, having rewatched this is a relatively, in my opinion, relatively competent reimagining of Scrooge. I think it's actually kind of ingenious how it's very much like a Kevin Williamson Screamish kind of a remake or retelling of Scrooge. I mean, obviously the characters in the movie are well aware of the Charles Dickens movie because this guy, Bill Murray, works at a head honcho of a TV outfit station or whatever, and they're doing a production of Scrooge, So obviously, it's the movie's well aware of the story, but it's really cool how the character even within knowing about the Scrooge as a Scrooge himself and all the stuff that happens with the characters they lay out, like instead of Cratchit, it's the secretary of his takes the role of Cratchit, and so on and so forth, So I think it's really competently, compared to movies they make now, I think in retrospect, looking back, it's really competently conceived and executed, and having the Ghost of Christmas Past be his old boss and the golfer boss, I thought was great, was wonderfully handled. Oh no, never mind. That's not the Ghost of Christmas Past. That's the guy who just comes to, sorry, that's the guy who just comes to say he's going to be visited by three ghosts. So then the Ghost of Christmas Past is the cab driver guy, which is take him or leave him. I never was really fond of the woman who kept hitting him, so I don't really like the ghosts actually. But I like the guy. The ghost I like the most is is his old boss, the one who comes and tells him he's going to be visited by three ghosts. But what I love about it, like I say, is just how obviously in the world of the movie they know full well about the story of Scrooge and Christmas Carol or whatever, but they still you know, relatively creatively, you know, make their own version of the same tale with this new, you know, late 80s mullet spin on it, take on it. So you know, Karen Allen is Bill Murray's girlfriend, and she's just pretty adorable and cute in this movie, and her smiles just make your heart want to just turn into melted butter or something, or melted anything. I mean, melted steel, melted, you know, whatever. Just melted shish kebab, anything. Her smiles just melt your heart. And you know, relatively confident. I mean, it's cool seeing, you know, the movie taking place in '88, so then it has to go back and see his life, and his dad gives him a, you know, big slab of meat or whatever, and then we see him in the Christmas Past meet, you know, his girlfriend, what's her name, Karen Allen's character, and it actually features a little Michael J. Pollard in there from Sleepaway Camp 3 and Bonnie and Clyde fame, and Dick Tracy as Bug Bailey or whatever. Michael J. Pollard in there is just a weirdo. He plays all the time, just like the same kind of character. It's like, oh, I got a guy for you, Michael J. Pollard. So I think it's really competent. I'm gonna go 3 stars for Scrooged. I mean, there's things that are just like, some forced humor or whatever. But the stuff with like his brother, who looks apparently probably is his real brother in real life, the guy who plays his brother. If not, he looks just like him, what it probably is his real brother. And the VCR and the towel, and all these little details I think are extremely competent. Oh yeah, also at the same time that Danny Elfman was getting huge, having just done Beetlejuice and just about to do Batman and Dick Tracy and all this kind of stuff. Danny Elfman, this is kind of the beginning of like the Danny Elfman years. And it's got, you know, relatively competent Danny Elfman, classic Danny Elfman score. Really, really, you know, like, this is a pretty big budget movie. I mean, it's got, for the time, pretty amazing visual effects and stuff as well. So I like how the movie starts with like, it's Lee Majors, the $1 million man, and all that kind of crap. And it's just like all the funny kind of promos at the very beginning. It's like drug addiction, highway shootings, Scrooge. It's just like so funny. So Bill Murray is extremely funny. Like I say, I think this is the first time he did a comedy since Ghostbusters, after taking several years off, a hiatus or whatever, 4 years off. And he comes back with, in my opinion, a little forced humor at the beginning, but then he's pretty great for the rest of the movie. And 3 stars, what can I tell you? It's a movie that obviously I got for $3 at Half Price Books a couple of years ago. It's a movie that I don't think I never necessarily owned. I may have had the VHS. I don't know. I never, like when I was a kid, I never seeked it out or anything like that necessarily. I didn't really ever really like it too much, but again, with a holiday movie, for me, I don't really, you just watch them around the holidays, so it's not a big part of my life, but it's a 3-star, you know, relatively competent and very funny classic Bill Murray movie. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next movie review.
Acid rain. Drug addiction.